Morning and welcome to America's Web Radio, and it's another David's pick, and we picked a gentleman that many of you know if you're Republican particularly, and probably don't like if you're Democrats, but he is the Fulton County chairman of the Republican Party, and we decided that we needed to have the Republican side interviewed and we know that today it's going to be garbage on the roads, and when I say that, it will be the president and the vice president on the road. However, I heard that they were going to try to help things out a little bit and take Helicopter One to PDK and avoid the traffic jam. So I do give them kudos for that, and we're glad to have that. Welcome to America's Web Radio.
David, thank you. Pleasure to be here this morning.
Sorry that we had a couple of foul-ups, and I want to warn the listeners that if you hear a loud boom, nobody's taking a shot at us. They're re-roofing our building, and they don't have their rubber mats on or something, and they are noisy every now and then. So let's I want to jump right into it and drill down and get right to the point of where's the Republican Party in your estimation, not only in Fulton County but as far as the state goes.
Well, I think they're
and country for that matter.
Right, absolutely. Well, I think naturally I guess you could say the Republican Party's regrouping all over the country with what happened in November and what happened with the runoffs in January. So right this second, we're getting ready for our mass caucus meetings all around the state tomorrow, which is, if for anyone not familiar, it's for somebody who wants to get involved, tomorrow is arguably the day to start doing that. We elect our precinct chairs, House district chairs, and officers throughout the state and county. So we're getting ready for that, starting tomorrow, and then getting ready to win back or keep the statewide offices in next year.
Good, and I'd be guilty of something if I didn't mention. I know you know Ginger Howard.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of my favorite people, of course, as is everybody's.
Yeah, as does everybody. But Ginger's also one of our favorite people. In fact, she and a couple of her friends used to do a show for me many years ago. And
nice.
Ginger has done quite well in the Republican Party and is a very staunch Republican.
She is. She's a great leader for us, for the state. I'm thankful she's one of our own in Fulton, and she's just done a great job here the last number of years, and she's all over the country. People know her all over the country, and she's strong for sure.
Absolutely. How do you see the health of the Republican Party across the country?
Well, David, I kind of put it like I think a quick answer is very strong. I mean, I think that we are, when you're under attack as we and the country is right now by the Democrats, I think it only makes you stronger. I think that I use some sports analogies now and then, and I think anytime you have a loss like we did in November, there's upset people, and you just it's regroup time and time to get everybody get back going in the right direction and the same direction and get ready for next year. I mean, it's literally no different than a sporting event or a golf match. You might have a bad hole, and guess what? You got to shake it off and get ready for the next one. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
I would like your opinion on this, and that I've certainly gotten mine for multiple reasons, but just literally in the last few weeks, month, I feel like the public has finally started waking up to some rather crude facts, and I know my opinion. What would do you feel like that as well? The public is waking up to our president today?
Well,
and some of his moves, I might add.
Right. No question, David. I think you're dead on. I think that unfortunately, there's probably a lot of people out there that voted for the president, and they're realizing real quick already, and it's only March of 2021, that maybe that wasn't the thing to do. Of course, you and I know that, but it's whether it's the border or anything else. I mean, it's amazing.
The one that I'm hearing, and I came from a border state, Texas, and so I'm quite familiar with the problems they're having there and shouldn't be having, but they are. But that's not what affects you and me. But that damn pump does, and that's getting lots of people's attention.
Well, you're right, David, and I've been getting people have made comments to me, and unfortunately, everything that we said before the election, whether it was higher taxes coming, open borders, poor health care legislation, all that's starting to to already rear its head, and people are going to find out, unfortunately, what a lot of people voted for. We do a show called The Doctor's Lounge, and Scott Barber was in yesterday doing this show. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and Scott is very pro independent care and capitalistic system, and not Medicare or Medicaid or whatever. But we have, and this is something that concerns me greatly, and that is the awareness or lack thereof of the general populace. And like I said, when I'm saying they're finally waking up to the gas pump, but as we have a border crisis, we have something that's looming that's going to affect all of us a lot more, and that's a medical crisis. We're not going to be able to pick up the phone or the cell phone or whatever and call our primary care physician and say, I've got a sore throat, can I come in? And we're losing doctors, and we're not getting the kids graduating from high school and going into college wanting to become doctors, because it's become, instead of a great occupation, it's become an occupation of, well, if socialized medicine comes in, the doctors will have no freedoms whatsoever. And I don't want a doctor that's under the control of the big pharma or big insurance companies, or particularly the government. And before Trump, we had a very bad socialistic VA system that Trump straightened out, and now Biden is going to change back to a disaster. And I'm very concerned. No question. I mean, you feel like that. We heard this week that his new tax plan that we knew was going to come, right? So you're just waiting for the. You feel like the health care is just around the corner, and you would think it's pretty simple logic. I mean, the more hands the government has into something, and in particular, health care it's critically important to people's lives. I mean, it's amazing to me that there's people in this country that think that's the answer to all the points that you made. I mean, it's you can't get good doctors that want to come through and deal with all that, and I just think about my experiences dealing with Fulton County government, or show me a government that works better than a private business, and I'll move there, because it really doesn't exist.
No, and as many shows as we do, and I bring this up almost on every show, and I hate it, is the fact that we've got more tools at our disposal with the computers, and people can look up anything they want to look up. And as a nation, as a country, we're just too lazy to do it. And it's killing us and going to get worse. And let me ask,
I know where I was with Trump, and I still support him. But and I realize I don't know how much you can speak for the National Party, but in my opinion, the Republicans should be grooming somebody right now, and preparing them and getting them whatever exposure they can get, and really start. Biden, in my opinion, can kill himself if we let him, and we will. And but we need to have somebody that's super well groomed.
Well, there's no question about it, and let's see what the president, Donald Trump. Let's see what he decides to do here in a couple of years. But you're right. If he decides not to run, there's no question. I mean, people have gotten used to bold leadership in the Republican Party with Donald Trump, and they don't want to go back from that. You would certainly think that there are Republicans around the country that are positioning themselves for that if Donald Trump does not run. But again, the Republican Party's been used to bold leadership and strong, bold leadership, and we got to have somebody just like that. If it's not Donald Trump himself,
except I don't see that bold leadership in Congress, and I wish I did, but unfortunately.
Well, I tell you, David, it's tough. When the Democrats literally have control of everything, and then, as you know better than anybody, when basically the most of the media is just a communications department for the Democrat Party.
Oh yeah,
it's hard to get your message out. We see that here locally and nationally. It's all over the place. So,
well, like you said, I don't know what gave you the clue other than the white hair, but I've been in this a long time, and you can throw all the money in the world at a problem, but if you don't have the solution and don't throw it in the right direction, it's still not going to pay off. And I have my feelings and opinions on that, and that I don't want to get into it, but I think more can be done than just sending out flyers that are costly and get tossed. And so I just I hope that the comeback is very strong, and that some strong leaders can prevail. And certainly we're a conservative station, and we've seen the handwriting on the wall since before Obama, and it's and I there's two things too, and I'd like, since you mentioned that you work with the county, and I don't know how you work with them, but at the same token, I blame our situation today in many cases on our public schools, and the history book, the lack of history that's being taught from elementary through high school. And then they get to college and they come face to face with a socialist that's teaching them socialism. When you have a history book that devotes 3 pages to World War II, you got something wrong. And when you have socialist, and Khrushchev said that they would take the United States without firing a shot, that we didn't have to worry about us. They weren't going to blow up their best asset with a rocket, with a missile, with a nuclear warhead. Although they almost tried in March 7th of 1968 off the coast of Hawaii. But, how do you feel about our public school systems and not teaching history? And I if you really want to upset me today, all you have to say is rewrite history. You can't do it. History is history. Our show today is history. When you leave the office, it's archived, and it's history. We can't take back what we say.
Well, David, I think what's going on in the public school system is an epidemic right now, and what I mean is no difference than with the health care. I mean, when the government's controlling something, God be with our children. I mean, whether that's them not letting them in the classroom, like we've had City of Atlanta, DeKalb County, and others, this past year, or just the message that they get, or the lack thereof, of the history that's not being taught, or just the political overtones that go on in the classrooms. That it's to say it's a crying shame is a understatement of the year, and it's a big fix. You got to get good people on these local school boards, and the more local control, the better. We don't need Washington in the classroom from that standpoint. But it's a real concern, and it's just another fight, a continued fight that has to go on each day and each week and each month.
How are, in your opinion, and also locally, how is the Republican Party doing on the college level? I know there's some organizations that are young folks that are conservative and see that they're inheriting a mess, or will be. But how do you see it on a local level?
Well, I think that again, we have got a number of young people that are involved, and whether it's on the college level or the here in the city, we've got the Atlanta and Buckhead Young Republican groups, which are big, vibrant groups. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of young conservatives out there that they just don't get the attention. I mean, it's no different than our people aren't radical people like the Democrats are that are out there getting all the attention and causing a bunch of trouble. Our people just don't get the headlines in a good way, in my opinion, on that. But they're out there. We need more of them, of course. You feel like going back to our previous discussion about the schools, you wonder how in the world somebody could make it through a public school system and still be conservative. I think it goes back to good parenting. But yeah, they're out there, and but like anything else, we need more of them. We need strong young people speaking out. And
we'll take our first break. I ran over a little bit, but we'll come back with Trey Kelley right after this.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
Hi, this is Rocky Blair, former four-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Vietnam veteran. As a board member, I'd like to talk to you about Warriors to Citizen, a nonprofit organization that helps American heroes, soldiers, police, fire, EMT, and their families recover from the psychological harm caused by career-induced stress. Over the last 20 years, broken relationships have been a major causal factor for the highest documented divorce rate and resulting suicides in this population. This program, From Warriors to Citizen, is delivered free to families by professionals, all whom served in uniform and understand the needs to be addressed. I ask for your support, so please go to our website, warriorstocitizen.org, and find out how you can help, either by making a donation or sharing this information with an American hero.
Hey folks, this is Victor with the On Point with Victor show. Make sure you listen every Tuesday 1 to 2, only right here on America's Web Radio, the On Point with Victor show. Remember folks, I'm not angry, I'm just right. And you can find out why every Tuesday from 1 to 2, the On Point with Victor show, only right here on America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back on America's Web Radio with David's Pick, and our guest is Mr. Kelley. And Trey Kelley is the GOP's chairman for Fulton County. And we're glad to have Trey in here. And we were talking about education, and also that there are young groups, young folks that are doing jobs for you all, or working on campuses. And what do you do to recruit them, and how are you recruiting them, and are they recruitable?
Good questions. Yeah, so the Republican Party has college groups inside of each college, and then there's a national, a statewide Republican organization that works with all the different schools. So the young men and women in the universities are on the ground trying to recruit folks, and they have regular meetings, and they try to recruit folks just like we do. We've got some good young leaders.
In your opinion, again, are these young folks making up their own minds, or are they coming from staunch Republican households and that's all they've ever heard since they could understand?
Well, a couple things. First off, I think just like anything else, it starts at home. And if you get the parents are doing a good job educating their children, I think young people can make up their decision for them. It's seemingly pretty logical. You get a lot of the children the college kids that probably buy the let's pay for college for everybody, that type of thing. But sharp young people know that that's economically not feasible and whatnot. But again, they're getting bad influences from schools and other places. But we've got a lot of young sharp people out there.
We unfortunately felt the results of Stacey Abrams, who I have no use for personally, but you got to give the devil its due, and she was able to recruit and get Democratic voters out, and in response now, I believe it's called Greater Georgia, that Kelley Loeffler is working on, and in the same way in putting together Republican groups and making sure the Republicans get out to vote. And we've invited Kelley to come on, and hope that eventually she will, and explain what she's trying to do, and also explain how people might be able to help her. And so Kelley, if you're listening, you're invited to America's Web Radio, and explain what you're doing and how people can help you do what you're doing. And we'd love to have her. We endorsed Kelley and David Perdue, and I must say I am not pleased, and was not pleased to hear what I heard yesterday from Mr. Warnock. And it's sort of like my description of Biden. He's not a president; he's a puppet, and or marionette, and somebody's always pulling his strings. And it seems like that's the way of the Democratic Party. Somebody else is pulling the strings. I don't know if it's Obama or who, but I'm not sure they have a thought of their own, that they're speaking for somebody else. And if people don't understand socialism and communism and fascism, then they should get a book out and read about it. And I don't want it, and I think that's going to be the straw that breaks America's back.
Well, it's clear that all you have to do is just, watch and listen to the limited amount of exposure that they put the president out there, and just, it's unfortunate. I mean, if he often has a tough time with sentences. I think he called the vice president yesterday the president. So yeah, I certainly feel like that there's, to use your language, people pulling the strings, and he is. I think he does a lot of what they tell him to do, and he's just the face of the nation, if you will, at least from their standpoint, and it'll be interesting to see how long he can keep it up. You watch him some weeks and you wonder if he's going to make it to the next, but I guess time will only tell.
Well, we don't wish anybody ill will, but I do support our country, and just like you said, if we're watching, sort of, I can assure you that our enemies are watching every move, and they will take advantage of us from any and every point that they can. And the thought of him negotiating for peanuts from Carter's farm scares the heck out of me. And I just don't think he's physically able. And the doctors that we do a number of medical shows, and the doctors that we've talked to from well before the election said he's in the mid stages of Alzheimer's, and it's beyond dementia, but and they said, and I quite frankly feel sorry for the guy, and that the Democrats are using him like a ping pong ball, and they've put a guy out there that I think they know can't make it. With that being said, we're going to have to take our second break, and I want to remind everybody that those pesky plastic bags that you take home from the grocery store, some of us use them for trash can liners, and some of us just stack them up in the garage and then dump them, but we have a use for them, and we're a drop-off point for those plastic bags. And that Frankie Holbrook that has Shine His Light Street Ministry, they take them, and it takes 500 bags per mat. But I want to tip my hat to Forsyth Central High School and the girls that are putting these mats together. It takes 500 bags to make a mat, but it'll keep a homeless person off the wet sidewalk. It'll keep them cool in the summertime, and it'll also keep them warm in the wintertime. To put a layer of these plastic bags, the way they weave them together and make a mat, it'll keep them cold, warm, or cool, warm, and then if you bring them to my office at 500 Sugar Mill Road in Sandy Springs, put them in a big trash bag, and then they can use that trash bag as a poncho. And I know I had my ponchos in the Army, and it wasn't too comfortable, but we had them, and we didn't have plastic bags. We had the real ponchos. But anyway, if you'll bring them to my office, I'll see that Frankie gets them picked up, and you can do your part to help the homeless on the street. And I say this because it concerns me a great deal that 1 out of 4 homeless are veterans, and we can't treat our veterans like that, or anybody else. They need help. And so when you get a chance, do that. And we also support Warriors to Citizens, and we just ran the first spot with Rocky Blyer, that is on the board of Warriors to Citizens. And Rocky, I was talking to him last night, and we got some good news coming our way. So anyway, we're going to get back to David's pick, and the loud noise that you'll hear every now and then as they're re-roofing the building we're in, and I think they're using that crane to drop it from 30 feet to see if it'll go through the ceiling. But anyway, if you hear a loud bang, don't worry, we're okay. It's just they're re-roofing. So back to Trey and what the Republican Party is doing in Fulton County. Have you got any secret plans that you can divulge that we can be the first to know?
Well, I can tell you this, David, again, as I mentioned when we opened, tomorrow starts the mass caucus meetings around the state. And
Now, are these caucus meetings to figure out the people that will go to the convention, or?
Yes. There's multiple purposes, if you will. One is just that. So a lot of people don't realize every 4 years when you see the Republican National Convention on television, that actually starts on the local level, starts in the counties. Then you have a district convention, a state convention, and then the delegates, kind of flow up, if you will, and move on to the national convention. But it does start at the local level, and in addition to the delegate process, it is where we have local elections, if you will, to determine who our precinct chairs are within each House district. Right here, we are in House District 50, I believe. Alex Kaufman ran for us here this past go-around. But you've got about 15 precincts per House district. So it's really the grassroots level of the Republican Party, and it's the critical part of the closer you are to the fire, the more important it is, if you will. So we're getting that going tomorrow, 9 o'clock, all around the county. There's 5 locations. You can go to fultongop.org and find out the locations. There's no cost. The doors close at 10. Take about an hour or so to get through that. But I encourage anyone who has not done that to definitely look into it. We'd love to have you. We're trying to get as many people in there as we can to help out naturally. But we'll just we'll get through tomorrow and get through our convention next month on the 17th, and start getting ready for next year. I mean, it's a big one. I mean, it's people in Georgia think we have problems now, which we do nationally. If to your earlier comment about Stacey Abrams, if she were to become our next governor, we would have real problems. So we can't let that happen.
We had I don't know. Do you know John Danbury?
I do. Johns Creek.
Yeah,
absolutely.
John was in yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about something that if it happens here, it's happening everywhere. And Senator Scott was on the air the other day making a good point that our government right now thinks, that money does grow on trees. That was one of my father's favorite sayings, is that money doesn't grow on trees, and we're going to have to tighten our belt this month, or whatever the saying might be. But Washington has gone wild with this COVID crap, and the $1.9 trillion. It's like John was telling us yesterday that the government's sending Johns Creek, I think, $26.5 million, and Johns Creek doesn't need it.
Golly.
They don't know, we're in the black. We don't need it. And yet, if it's happening in Johns Creek, Georgia, it must be happening across the country. And this is why Senator Scott went on, I don't know, did you happen to see him the other day?
I did not, no.
He addressed this exact issue and said, look, it's happening everywhere. If you're a city getting a check for all the COVID problems, and you don't need it, please send it back. Our Treasury needs it.
Right.
And the way government works, I doubt that anybody's going to raise a hand and say, let's send free money back. But this is absurd.
Well, we the people are going to be literally paying for it. I mean, this debt is especially with the new relief package. I mean, numbers that nobody can even put their arms around.
$30 trillion in debt. We're not going to be. Now, I'm way too old, and you're somewhere behind me. But you ain't going to pay for it, but it's going to be our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids that are trying to dig us out of debt.
No question. And the problem in that, one of the main problems is once you get in debt, you're compromised, in our case with our enemies, and puts us in a weaker position. And, as I was alluding to earlier with Biden coming out this past week with his, talking about his tax plan that he's going to start pushing. I mean, I'm afraid it's going to, send we've had a great economy, even with the pandemic here the last number of years, and I'm afraid he starts pulling out the taxes that, that might be coming to an end, but, we'll see.
Well, it's, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, but what's going on in many cases to me is criminal, and I hope that there'll be some way that the Republicans, through the filibuster or whatever, can stop some of this. We have to stop it, and unfortunately, like I said, the only slight indication to me that people are waking up a little bit is at the gas pump, and we can blame it all on the pipeline, but that's a small part of it. And the jobs that Biden has cost across the country, everything from, I know the oil fields fairly well in Texas and the Permian Basin and so forth, and you wonder why small stores, small restaurants are going out of business. When you cost thousands and thousands of jobs, that's the results. And
no question. It was so sad to see that, stroke of the pen, day 1 or 2, whenever it was, when as far as the Keystone Pipeline, you feel so bad for those folks, and the Democrats are saying, oh, they'll get them clean jobs or whatever. The Democrats think they can just snap their fingers with economic activity, and it doesn't work like that. But yeah, I mean, when you start, private sector cannot compete with the government, and when the government starts to do more into the private sector, it just kills jobs and industries and everything else.
Well, I think you would agree at this point, but it may change, and may change sooner than people think. But Biden has proven momentarily that the pen's mightier than the sword. But the sword may be coming. Who knows? It may have to. And, this thing, I was talking to a doctor friend of mine. In fact, she was on the air talking about it. That our capital looks like a prison camp, with the National Guard, the troops there, and then all the concertina wire around on a fence that was beautiful. That, it was, in whoever the architect was or whenever it was done, it was, and I'm sure there was a draft of it painted or drawn or whatever back then. There was no barbed wire on it, and there shouldn't be. And as things keep going, I'm sure you kept up with it, but the fake news is finally being caught up with, like the thing of Trump saying people should drink Clorox or whatever, or and all these different fake things that have been said. They're finally coming out with the truth. And that the last one was that the Washington Post just made it up.
Right. Well, it goes back to our earlier discussion about the media, and I've told some friends that have regurgitated some things that you'd hear on CNN or some of the others, and I just my comment to them is change the channel. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really that simple. But a lot of people. CNN used to be a great news station years ago here in Atlanta, and but these media outlets have just turned into communications departments for the Democrat Party, and it's hard for some people to get through the noise on that, unfortunately.
Well, there's a reason for all of it, and maybe it's to wake us up to what we need, the fundamentals that we need to get back to that our country was built on, and wake us up to see the light. And I don't know.
Well, you think, the saying goes, things sometimes they got to get worse before they get better. I just obviously just hope it doesn't get too much worse. But I do think that people will realize here. I mean, to your earlier point, just in 3 months, I think people are waking up a little bit. So certainly here in 1, 2, 3, and 4 years, I think people will.
Well, we're going to take another break right quick and listen to Warrior to Citizens with Rocky Blyer right now. And then keep in mind that we are a collection point for those the plastic bags that you get at the grocery stores that we give to shine his light.
Hi, this is Rocky Blyer, former 4-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Vietnam veteran. As a board member, I'd like to talk to you about Warriors to Citizen, a nonprofit organization that helps American heroes, soldiers, police, fire, EMT, and their families recover from the psychological harm caused by career-induced stress. Over the last 20 years, broken relationships have been a major causal factor for the highest documented divorce rate and resulting suicides in this population. This program, From Warriors to Citizen, is delivered free to families by professionals, all whom served in uniform and understand the needs to be addressed. I ask for your support, so please go to our website, warriorstocitizen.org, and find out how you can help, either by making a donation or sharing this information with an American hero that you may know. And thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, join me, Roger B., every Tuesday at 1400 hours right here on America's Web Radio for the Locked and Loaded Show. We will talk about guns, weapons, ammo, gun accessories, prepping, and so much more. So be sure to join us every Tuesday at 1400 or 2 p.m. for Locked and Loaded on America's Web Radio.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Which is a real positive thing.
Okay, we're back on David Spick on America's Web Radio with our guest, Trey Kelley, the Fulton County Republican chairman, and we're certainly pleased that you took the time out of your busy schedule to come in and visit with us. So, do you, in part of what you do you lobby in as far as like with the state congressional groups or whatever?
Well, I am not I'm not a certified lobbyist, but I do try to, make my voice heard with our legislators when there's a need of something that we see that's real important that they we feel like they should consider. Of course, right now they're going through all the election reform. We're working on that down at the Capitol, and there's just I think maybe 4 or 5 more days left in the session this year, but I'm real optimistic about what they're doing. A lot of good reform, things. Unfortunately, there's people in our state, country, and society that take advantage of laws, and they try to push the envelope, and that's just the way it is. And you've got to make it hard for people who want to break the law, obviously, because for every illegal vote, your vote doesn't count, and my vote doesn't count. It's a wash. So I'm real pleased about what we'll see what the final deal is, but I'm real optimistic about what they've been doing downtown during this session.
Do you think anything will ever come of Dominion?
That's a good question. That's kind of a little over my pay grade. Nothing surprises me. I'll say that. But those are expensive machines, and I guess time will only tell. But there is so many things that could be done and are being done in addition to the machines that I think will be real positive. The having an ID or putting your driver's license number on an absentee, if you have an absentee. I mean, that's about as simple logic as it gets. I mean, you got to go show your ID for just about anything these days, whether it's buying alcohol or getting on a plane or anything. And voting is just about as important as anything that we do as a nation. And to think that somebody doesn't have to show an ID for that is ludicrous. And everybody's signature changes over time. We know that. I mean, I've seen my own signature change. So to think that you've got somebody that can look at my signature and say, "Oh, okay, this is," I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I'm real. When they get the voter ID with the absentee ballots, I'll be very excited.
What about the mail-in ballots? Not the absentee, but what the Democrats flooded the market with.
Yeah, I think that there's some things in there as far as who can send the applications out. What you have, David, or what happened is in this area right here, you've got so many. Atlanta is such a transient city. You get people that move in and move out. So there are so many people on the voter rolls that no longer live here, and you've got county elections like Fulton County, for example, who will not take these people off the rolls. So then the Democrats know that, so they mail them the applications and try to get those ballots back in, and that's the game plan. So again, if people have to put their driver's license number on there, I think that I don't even know my driver's license number, so I'd have to look it up. But so I think that'll be a real positive thing and certainly a step in the right direction.
Good. Anything, and I guess I'm so old-fashioned, or old anyway, and old-fashioned, but this is the best country in the world, in my opinion. And there's nothing, we're not second to anybody. And I just can't fathom, if I hated you and I came over with a baseball bat and broke your knees and sat there laughing, or I may be mentally ill, but I can understand somebody doing that, sort of. But like hacking, they don't even know who the hell they're killing on the computers, And this is the same way with voting. I look forward to it. I pat myself on the back as I walk into my voting place, and I'm damn proud to pull out my ID and say, "Hey, I'm here voting. And you may not like the way I vote, but by golly, I'm going to vote, and I have the right to talk about it." And anything less than that, I can't understand.
Well, there's nothing that drives me more crazy when I, get the wind of somebody not, taking their right to vote, using their right to vote, and it's a great privilege and honor. We pay for it in taxes, and so, it's something that everybody should do, and but again, it shouldn't be. Unfortunately there's bad actors in just about anything, and when you start seeing people trying to take advantage of that. And like I said, every illegal vote is cast. Does away with our vote. So we, people have got to have the confidence in the elections, and without that, we got big problems. But again, you got to go vote. Whatever the election, we had some people sit home back in January, and we got a bad result. So you got to go vote, and I'm optimistic about the future as far as election integrity and confidence for everybody.
Trey, we got about 2 minutes before we wind it up. What other message would you like to get out? And I know I'm sort of hitting you off of the shoulder a little bit, but is there any other message besides getting out to vote?
Absolutely, get involved. I mean, my basketball.
Does this count?
It does.
Oh, okay.
No question. My basketball coach used to say, "If it is to be, it's up to thee." And everybody, we got to have all Republicans working in the right direction and doing everything they can these next 2 years to make sure that we don't have Stacey Abrams in the governor's mansion. And locally, you can go in Fulton County. You can go to fultongop.org. Get on our mailing list. We send out a newsletter every Monday that goes out across the county of all the Republican activities. And if you're not in Fulton County, just simply Google your county Republican Party and find out where the meetings are. But get involved. Yelling at the television. I've learned the hard way that does not do much. So, like I said, if you can make it tomorrow, the mass meetings around the state, we'd love to have you. Otherwise, let's get ready. It's either move or fight, and I'm not looking to move out of Georgia anytime soon. So let's get ready for next year's elections.
You just gave me a thought, and you had mentioned it before about Atlanta being such a transit area or city. Where I live in Johns Creek, it's certainly transit and people coming and going. Do you have, like, I know my ex-wife was involved with the Welcome Wagon at one time. Does Fulton County have any kind of welcoming, or I say Fulton County, does the Republican Party have any kind of welcome to our area?
Well, so when people fill out the national change of address that's stating they moved to Georgia, and the Republican Party is able to identify them as Republicans, we certainly try to reach out to them and kind of make it known. Here we are. Love to have you, type of thing. The beauty of the internet these days is, if I move to Iowa tomorrow, I could Google local Republican Party and find it. But yeah, we certainly try to, when we know people that are Republican moving in, we certainly try to let them know where we're at, and we'd love to have them.
And one last thought, and just that Kelley Loeffler is starting Greater Georgia, and try to contact her and reach out to her and see how you can help. And if we're lucky, we'll have her on and she can explain it for herself. But we do want to support any effort to see that, like you said, Abrams not elected governor, and that Georgia does what it should as a conservative state. I don't want to live in a purple state. I want to be a bright red.
No question. Kelley realizes that. She knew that there needed to be a group to combat Stacey Abrams and her Fair Fight and all her other groups that she's established. So, Kelley knows the deal. She's been around the state, and very, very bright person. And I look forward to working with her and making that happen come next year.
Okay, with that being said, we got to put the plug in the jug and get out of here. Get ready for more entertainment on America's Chat Radio, America's Web Radio, and we'll be back later.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.